Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's KFIR Middle East update. It's the week of January 30th, and we'll look back over the last 7 days as far as what's taken place significantly in the Middle East, especially in regards to Israel. Just a reminder that there is a PDF PowerPoint that accompanies this YouTube, and you can access that either on the YouTube page, there should be a link, or go to our website at holygroundexplorations.com. We begin with our news bites. Some good news. New poll of U.S. voters finds overwhelming support for Israel over Hamas. 67% of the survey respondents say that there should only be a ceasefire if all the hostages are freed and the Gaza ruling terror group is removed from power. 67%. Now, let's be clear. As long as the Palestinian Authority is still rewarding terrorists in regards to their pay for slay and refusing to condemn the October 7th atrocities, it remains, the PA that is, remains to be unfit to administer a Palestinian state. And again, news bites. Hamas, in regards to the decision from The Hague, is disappointed and bitter. They received absolutely nothing, no ceasefire, no return of terrorists to the evacuation areas, no sanctions, and they're ordered to immediately return all of the abductees. Not exactly what they had in mind. And then with UNRWA, we'll have an article on this in the body of today's presentation as well. But the U.S. has pulled funding from UNRWA, and Israel has provided effective, direct evidence that the UNRWA employees were actually participating and involved in the October 7th attack. And the U.S. is not the only. I think we're up to 22 countries that are pulling their funding from UNRWA. And then just as of yesterday, another proposal for a ceasefire. And it seems like it's progressing, but there's a long road ahead. And in the midst of all these discussions, yesterday there were 11 rockets that were fired from Gaza into Tel Aviv. And so, although with that taking place, we've read that the Israeli Air Force has taken out those rocket launchers, and there were no injuries that reported. So that's our news bites. Now our articles. Again, this ceasefire, this deal that currently is just sitting on the table. The conventional wisdom is that by implementing a 2-month ceasefire over such a long period of time would be seen as a de facto end of the war. But again, it's structured. Hamas is going to give up a series of 3 different phases of the elderly, young children, mothers, and then the next phase would be military women, and then the last phase, or the next to last phase, military men, and then of course, and we have no idea how many have been killed, murdered in Gaza, but the bodies of the victims as well. And all of this in regards to, this will transpire and Israel has to give up X amount of terrorists and all that. And again, the idea is that in this coming to an end, perception is everything. And so the small deal that would be to release the captives, the U.S. would in a sense seek, and this is for the political advantage of Biden, obviously, but the U.S. would seek to achieve a historic regional agreement during the days of the negotiations and ceasefire, under which Saudi Arabia would recognize Israel established diplomatic relationships with it, and then because of how significant that would be, that sort of recognition is supposed to compensate Israel for stopping the war, and of course, their goal of the war is to collapse Hamas rule, but it's tit for tat. If we give you this, will you stop the war and allow Hamas to survive? And currently, it's the deal that's on the table. And the Qataris and Egyptians, and we're involved in it as well, CIA, Mossad. But Bibi's recently just come out and saying it's a no-go. But pressure is being mounted, and we'll take a wait-and-see approach on all of this. One of the far-right Knesset members, Bezalel Smotrich, I know he's radically right, but I really did appreciate his comments concerning the hostages, because it is an absolute no-win situation for Bibi. How do you not do everything possible to release the captives? And as the days go by, you realize many of them are going to die. So what do you do? People are surrounding your home, demanding the release of the captives. Do whatever you need to do. So no win for him. But I appreciate Bezalel's comments. He said, I cannot commit to bringing all the captives home alive, but I can promise you that I will do everything in my power to bring them back. I will do the utmost to the best of my judgment and conscience in a way that would best serve the prospects of returning them. But I need to look out for the very good of Israel and the Jewish people. Again, I cannot look you in the eye and say, I'll bring your son back alive, but I will do my very best. I thought that was honesty. So, updated IDF stats. The end of the month, the end of January, according to IDF figures, 9,000 terrorists have been killed since October 7th. And among them, 2 Hamas brigade commanders, 19 battalion commanders, 50 company commanders, thousands more have been injured. During that time, however, 14,000 rockets were fired at Israel from Gaza. 14,000. 2,000 rockets and missiles were fired from Lebanon and 30 from Syria. The IDF, the most moral army in the world, conducted 79,000 phone calls calling on civilians to move from battle zones. They dropped 7 million leaflets with this same message and 13 million text messages. Since October 7th, around 200,000 Israelis have been displaced from their home, both in the south as well as in the north. And then we have, again, our country, our government, and the overwhelming fact is that Democrats support a two-state solution. Almost all the U.S. Senate Democrats signed an amendment backing Palestinian statehood as a means for solving this issue, this problem. They don't mention anything about the ongoing war with Hamas or the atrocities. It was actually 49 out of 51 senators. If you're aware of the atmosphere on the ground in Israel, you realize that this is not even a discussion among Israelis. That is a possibility of a two-state solution. And yet, we will press forward in the United States to make that happen. The reality, brainwashing. It will take at least 20 to 30 years before we might see a new generation of local Arabs who aren't possessed by their hatred of the Jews. Remember, these children, this generation, We're educated from birth to want the misery, pain, suffering, and complete annihilation of the Jews. Realistically, the only possible solution is to remove this satanic hatred, for that's what it is new birth in Jesus. But the reality is, as long as the status quo is the way it is today, once we can put an end to the brainwashing techniques, keep in mind, it will be a generation, 20 to 30 years. And then the leader of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, a former Israeli national security advisor, believes that the Hamas chief, Sinwar, will never let all the hostages go in a deal with Israel, simply to keep them around him for protection. He'll keep some of the hostages forever because this is his insurance policy that no one will kill him. Keep in mind, Netanyahu has ordered a special unit from the Mossad to be established to track down those who led and executed the October 7th invasion. He goes on to say is that no matter where they are in the world and no matter how long it takes, they are dead men walking. And then a new proposal for getting those at least back to their homes in the south is a buffer zone that's being proposed by Netanyahu, the IDF. He has insisted that Israel needs to establish security controls within Gaza, complete demilitarization, obviously, in the aftermath of the war. The IDF is currently constructing a 1 kilometer, about 0.63 miles, buffer zone on the Gaza border to prevent future attacks like what took place on October 7th. And again, make sure you grab the PDF PowerPoint. There's a map that you can see of the buffer zone where it's taking place, where the high-risk areas are, where the no-go areas will be. And again, we'll see. Unbelievable is the title of this next article. Arabs across the Middle East, North Africa, overwhelmingly view Hamas's October 7th massacre, which left 12,000 dead, 240 others kidnapped. They view it as a legitimate resistance. That's the phrase that's being used. Only 5% denounce Hamas's war crimes as an illegitimate operation. 3% said that it was a legitimate resistance operation that involved criminal acts. 3 in 4 Palestinians have a positive view on Hamas. And just over half of the respondents say that they consider the biggest threat to security and stability in the region to be the United States. A friend, Amir Safate, just wrote this in regards to standing with Israel today. He writes, many church leaders, influencers, Christian celebrities have been avoiding any public show of support for Israel, remaining silent ever since October 7th. In our world, it cost a price to stand with Israel. Some are willing to pay that price. Unfortunately, others are not. You can tell the Israelis a million stories about Jesus and how he changed your life. However, if you don't have the guts to condemn what was done to our nation in October 7th, not only will those people never listen to you, but your testimony will be viewed as absolutely hypocritical. That's from Amir. Something to reflect on and ask yourself the question, are you willing to pay that price? And what does it look like to stand with Israel today? October 7th, not just the date, a new Shawarma Restaurant opened in Amman, Jordan, last Wednesday, and they chose that name. The name of the restaurant is October 7th. Just as a reminder, as the deadliest day for the Jews since the Holocaust. And according to the news in Israel, Channel 12, the restaurant owners have said they will not change the name no matter what the outcry might be. And again, pictures. This is the restaurant. One of the leaders, if not the main leader, president, whatever title you want to give, of Hamas, Khaled Mashaal, in an article, again, living in Qatar, he's a billionaire or whatever, but I was troubled by his comments. He boasted that the Hamas October 7th massacre of over 1,200 Israelis, and here's his phrase, revive the dream of wiping Israel off the map. The top Hamas terrorist noted with satisfaction that this genocidal slogan, from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free, was currently being chanted by American students and in European capitals. He goes on to say during this interview that what's behind this unspeakable invasion, what's behind it all was when Israel released 1,000 prisoners just for the return of Gilad Shalit in 2011. He said, when we realized how much they were willing to give up, it convinced Hamas to carry out this mass kidnapping of around 240 Israeli and international hostages. And we're still waiting to see what price will be paid for their release. And again, back to UNRWA, just a cartoon on the last page. Never ask a woman her age, and never ask a man his salary, and don't ask an UNRWA employee where they were on October 7th. Unbelievable. Participating in the atrocities in the South. So that's our report for this week. And again, just as a reminder that in these dark days, light needs to be dispelled. Our light needs to be given, not dispelled. And the light that we have is the light of Christ, the light of Jesus, the light of the world. He's our hope, and we need to lift our prayers to him. In Isaiah 61, when it talks about the Messiah, one of the things it says that he will do is to release the captives, to set the captives free. And so, as you can probably see, I wear one of these dog tags that says, bring them home now. Please join with me on a regular basis to pray that the captives are set free. God bless you, and shalom.